Having described both the dating context and the method in which Daniel received his fifth direct revelation, this entire chapter is devoted to describing a conflict between two empires, which originated at the death of King Alexander of Greece. The prophetic utterances are so precise that both critical and liberal scholars advocate that it could only be written after the event, what we call pseudo-prophecy. Since Daniel's status was confirmed by Jesus many years after the book of Daniel was written, the balance of evidence supports that Daniel was a prophet, and his words are not that of fiction.
And as for me, in the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to support and strengthen him. And now what I show you is true. Behold, there shall arise 3 more kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than all of them. And when he has grown strong through his riches, he shall stir up all the kingdom of Greece.
The heavenly being was behind Babylon's downfall to the Persians and Medians 5 years earlier. He was there to strengthen Darius the Mede for his role in the transition. We see later that there was intense spiritual warfare in the heavenly realms against the demons of both Persia and Greece. Some believe that he is Michael the archangel, as he stopped Satan from his attempts to annihilate the Jewish race. The archangel Michael is seen as the protector of Israel. The first major prophecy predicted in 534 BC would occur way beyond Daniel's lifetime. Persia would invade Greece. The message is simple. There would be 4 more Persian kings, and the 4th one will be so wealthy he will take the fight to the kingdom of Greece. The first Persian king was King Cyrus, who ruled for 6 years before his death in 530 BC. This was followed by Cambyses II, who ruled for 8 years to 522 BC. Bardia, also known as Smerdis or Gumata, ruled for only a few months before his untimely death. The 4th king was Darius I, who initiated the fight against the kingdom of Greece. Darius I, not the Mede of Daniel's time, started the first invasion attempts of Greece. As a result of his untimely death, his son Xerxes I successfully drove deep into Grecian territory and at one stage completely overran Greece. These wars became known as the First and Second Persian invasion of the mainland of Greece, and it lasted until 449 BC. Eventually, the Grecian naval fleet drove out the Persian forces, ending the invasion. So 45 years later, and with Daniel long in the grave, the first prophecy was fulfilled to the T.
And a powerful king shall arise, who shall rule an extensive empire, and do as he pleases. When he shall arise, his kingdom shall be broken up, and shall be divided between the 4 winds of heaven, but not to his posterity, nor according to his authority with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, and will go to others besides these.
The second major prophecy concerns details of the first king of Greece and the division of the Grecian Empire more than 2 centuries after it was prophesied. As we saw in chapter 8, the mighty king was no other than King Alexander of Greece. He did as he pleased, swiftly conquered the Persian Empire in a few short years. At the height of his power, he died. 11 years after his initial crushing of the Persian Empire, his territory extended to a country known today as Pakistan. At the time of his death, his wife Roxanne was pregnant. They, together with his half-brother and other family members, were murdered, leaving the division of his kingdom to 4 generals. As prophesied, in 321 BC, General Ptolemy was given authority over Egypt and its adjacent countries and became known as the Ptolemaic Empire. General Seleucus headed up Syria, Asia Minor, and the territories towards the east and became known as the Syrian or Seleucid Empire. General Lysimachus headed up Thrace and its adjoining territories, while General Cassander ruled Greece and Macedonia. The prophecy of the Great War from here onwards deals exclusively with the Seleucid and Ptolemaic Empire. The Seleucid or Syrian Empire is described in the scriptures as the king of the north, while the Egyptian Ptolemaic Empire is described as the king of the south. 213 years after this prophecy, the finer details regarding the Grecian Empire and its split was fulfilled.
The king of the south shall grow strong, and one of his officers shall grow more powerful, and shall have a greater kingdom than his.
So two specific warring kingdoms prophesied out of the former Grecian Empire receives the focus of the third major prophecy of Daniel in 534 BC. In 305 BC, the Ptolemaic Empire was established and the rulers of Egypt accepted them as successors to the pharaohs of Egypt until they were conquered by the Romans in 30 BC. All the male rulers of this dynasty took the name Ptolemy as their names, while female rulers were called Cleopatra, Berenice, or Arsinoe. The second officer identified by the angelic being is the General Seleucus, known as the Seleucid or Syrian Empire, and is the prophesied king of the north. It did grow substantially stronger than its southern foe. Both these descriptions, north and south, were taken from the position of Israel, who was in the middle of this great conflict. Both these kingdoms, north and south, also ruled over the Jewish lands and Jerusalem at some stage during their conquest and would shape Jewish culture and their destiny. 229 years after the event was prophesied, the northern kingdom of the Seleucid Empire became the greater of the two.
At the end of years they shall join themselves together, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain her power, neither shall his strength endure, but she shall be betrayed, and her attendants, and he who became the offspring of her, and he who supported her in those times.
The fourth major prophecy involves an attempted alliance between north and south. The phrase "at the end of years," often translated as "after some years," clearly denotes a lapse of time before the next notable section of prophecy. In reality, it took place over 50 years later. The joining together indicates an alliance, confirmed by the words "make an agreement," which was forged by Egypt, the king of the south. He would offer his daughter in marriage to the king of the north. It was a common practice where a truce was established among the monarchs of different kingdoms or nations that intermarriage of the princess or princesses would occur. The king of the south would benefit as his daughter's offspring would rule over the northern kingdom, thereby ensuring a permanent truce between north and south, and the southern Egyptians could only gain in this process. But according to prophecy, his attempt would backfire, resulting in her attendants, her offspring, and anyone who supported her would be killed. Let's investigate what historically occurred. Finally, tired of war, Ptolemy II, known as Philadelphus, forged a plan to offer his daughter in marriage to the king of the north to bring about peace. As both parties accepted this truce, it appears that both parties were willing to form an alliance and wanted a degree of peace and security after many years at war. The condition of the truce and the marriage was that the son of Ptolemy II's daughter, known as Berenice, which is a title, would have the right to rule the northern kingdom. The king of the north, Antiochus II Theos, was required to divorce his existing wife, Laodicea, in order to marry Berenice, the daughter of the king of the south. The marriage was believed to have taken place in 252 BC, and Antiochus had a son. The only problem is, the king of the south died 6 years later. Immediately, Antiochus, the king of the north, used this opportunity to break the truce and to divorce his new wife Berenice, and then he remarried his wife Laodicea. Things did not work out great for the northern king though. His wife, scorned by the king previously divorcing her, poisoned the king. Perhaps feeling he would change his mind again, and she also killed Berenice, the young child, and all her attendants, as well as anyone who supported her. 290 years after it was uttered, the fourth sequential prophecy concerning the attempted alliance was fulfilled.
But out of a shoot from her roots shall arise in his place, who shall come against the army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. Also their gods, with their molten images, and with the precious vessels of silver and of gold, shall he carry into Egypt. And he shall withdraw for some years from the king of the north.
The fifth major prophecy in 534 BC details the success of the king of the south. At the deaths of the king of the north and south, Ptolemy III Euergetes, the brother of Berenice, emerged as the ruler of the king of Egypt, while Seleucus Callinicus, the son of Laodice, became the new Seleucid king. Ptolemy III invaded the Syrian kingdom within a year after his sister's death and subdued the entire territory. He avenged his sister's death by executing Laodice. He further extended his territory by capturing territories as far as modern-day Turkey. The extent of this dominant strike against Syria is emphasized with him not only taking the spoils back to Egypt, but in taking many of the Syrian idols. As we observed with King Nebuchadnezzar, the taking of a country's gods was a show of force and illustrated superiority over others. However, as with the Game of Thrones, Ptolemy III did not retain control of the territory. According to Jerome, when he heard of a plot of rebellion in Egypt, he subsequently ransacked the Seleucid kingdom and handed rule over its reins to one of his friends, Cilicia, while the regions northwards of the Euphrates were assigned to another general. As per the prophecy of Daniel, he withdrew and left the king of the north alone for many years. Ptolemy III never lost a war to the king of the north and was vastly superior in both military power and strategy than the northern Seleucid king. He held firmly onto his throne until his death in 221 BC. It took 293 years for the fifth sequential prophecy to be fulfilled.
And he shall come into the realm of the king of the south, but he shall return into his own land. And his son shall wage war, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, which shall advance and overflow, and pass through, and they shall return and wage war, as far as his fortress.
As we heard, the sixth major prophecy is all about the failed revenge attack by the king of the north. After the lull in events, Daniel described the king of the north attacking the Egyptian kingdom without success as he returns to his own land. However, his sons would gather a great force and would not only subdue the king of the south, but would flow through cities as far as his fortress. Let's investigate what historically occurred. Historically, Seleucus II Callinicus acquired allegiance in both Babylon and the Greater. By 241 BC, he had acquired dominion over considerable parts of the former Seleucid Empire, although the Ptolemies of Egypt held firmly to certain territories. At his death in 223 BC, Antiochus III, who is also known as the Great, took to the throne and ruled over the northern Seleucid Empire for 36 years. He launched multiple campaigns against the territories of Egypt and restored Syria's territory in Gaza. 311 years after it was uttered, the sixth major prophecy was fulfilled in sequence to the others to a dot.
The king of the south shall be moved with rage, and shall come forth and fight against him, even with the king of the north. And he shall raise a great multitude, and the multitude shall be given into his hand. The multitude shall be taken away, and his heart shall be exalted, and he shall cast down tens of thousands, but he shall not prevail.
The seventh major sequential prophecy involves the southern kingdom's reaction to the northern kingdom's success. As Daniel had prophesied, the king of the north raised a great multitude, but still fell spectacularly. In 217 BC, history confirms the Egyptian king of the south went out with rage and encountered the armies of the northern kingdom, estimated at being around 70,000, and defeated them. Having accomplished victory, the king of the south was filled with pride, reflected in Daniel's description of him as his heart shall be exalted. And although he destroyed many, his success would not prevail. He did not press the advantage he had been given by this victory, allowing Antiochus III, or the Great, and his armies to flee to their homeland. 317 years after it was prophesied, the seventh major prophecy involving the rage of the Ptolemaic Empire was fulfilled.
The king of the north shall return, and shall raise a multitude greater than the former, and he shall advance after some years with a great army, and with abundant supplies. And in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south. Also the violent ones amongst your people shall rise up in confirmation of the vision, but they shall fail. So the king of the north shall come, and build up a siege mount, and take a well-fortified city. And the forces of the south shall not prevail, neither his best troops, neither shall there be any strength to resist. But he who comes against him shall do as he pleases, and no one shall be able to withstand him. And he shall stand in the beautiful land, and destruction will be within his power.
The eighth major prophecy, uttered in 534 BC, is all about the success of the Seleucid Empire. Although the king of the south had halted the aggression of the Seleucid Empire, it was only a temporary victory, as the northern kingdom was predicted to return with even larger forces than that which it previously lost. The phrase "after some years" occurred 14 years later. Amidst uprisings in both Egypt and Jerusalem, the king of the north was prophesied as laying siege to a fortified city, and while the king of the south would rise against him, he would not be able to withstand him. As a result of this victory, the king of the north would stand in the beautiful land with destruction within his power. Concerning Daniel's prophecy about the uprisings in the territory of the king of the south, this was caused by the death of the Egyptian monarch, Ptolemy IV, in 203 BC. His successor was his son, who at this stage was only 4 years old. Antiochus III, the Syrian king of the north, took full advantage of the lack of clear leadership in the southern Egyptian kingdom and successfully conquered the previously held city of Sidon. As also prophesied by Daniel, the event would transpire while the king of Egypt, the king of the south, would not only have challenges to his throne, but there would be an internal revolt by some Jews, described as being from among your people, attempting to force fulfillment of this prophecy. The northern kingdom conquered territory as far as the fortress of Gaza in 201 BC. It had the support of many Jews who had decided to support Antiochus III in an attempt to fulfill prophecy. Antiochus III then mustered a great army and attempted to take control of Jerusalem with the assistance of many Jews. But General Scopas of the southern Egyptian kingdom managed to quell the initial invasion attempt, and in 199 BC killed many of the Jewish leaders involved in favoring the Seleucid king over Egyptian rule, and managed to secure certain territories. However, this was short-lived, as in 198 BC, after the Battle of Panium, the armies of the king of the south were soundly defeated, which brought an end to the Ptolemaic southern king's rule over Judea and Jerusalem. In 198 BC, The 8th major prophecy concerning the success of the North was fulfilled. We have seen with the unraveling of this great war the many detailed facets prophesied and fulfilled one after the other, spanning many centuries. To everyone's surprise, the details get greater the further away we are in time. The 9th major sequential prophecy predicted in 534 BC was that the king of the north would become overambitious.
He shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and will reach an agreement with him, which he shall put into effect. And he shall give him a daughter of woman to send destruction on him, but it will not last or be to his advantage. After this shall he turn his face to the coastal regions, and shall capture many. But a commander shall bring his insolence to an end. In addition, he shall repay him for his insolence. Then he shall turn his attention towards the fortresses of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall, and shall not be found again.
As prophesied, King of the North Antiochus III used his position of strength to broker an agreement with the younger king of the South to marry his daughter. We have seen this attempt before. Naturally, he believed that when she would bear him a son, he as the grandfather would have a great deal of influence, or even he could then possibly plot the downfall of the southern kingdom. Now in 195 BC, his daughter, Cleopatra, remember it's a title, married the boy king, but things did not pan out as he had planned. His daughter became sympathetic to the boy king and remained loyal to the Egyptians. Talk about a backfire. In fury, Antiochus III then turned his attention on the coastal territories westwards of Asia Minor and invaded parts of Thrace with a huge naval fleet. Both Greece and Macedonia responded collectively, and the Romans finally joined in driving Antiochus out of the region. On retreat though, the Romans followed Antiochus III into Syrian territory, where a showdown occurred in the area of Sardis. Although he outnumbered the Roman soldiers by more than 40,000 troops, he suffered a severe loss. The Romans demanded that Antiochus III forfeit all his gains made to the west, and they took hostages, including his son, back to Rome, and required that he pay vast sums of money for his attempt to colonize the coastlands. In 187 BC, with his coffers running low and the requirement to pay Rome, he pillaged a local native temple, and to his surprise, the residents of the city emerged with great bravery, killing him and dispersing his entire army. Once again, 344 years after it was uttered, the 9th major prophecy was fulfilled.
Then shall arise in his place one who shall send an exactor of tribute to pass through the kingdom to maintain its glory. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, though not in anger nor in battle.
How we love taxes, and this is the essence of the 10th major prophecy uttered by Daniel in 534 BC. The 10th prediction of Daniel continues in remarkable fashion. We describe the severe imposition of taxes by the newly appointed king of the north, who would send a tax collector to extract wealth for personal gain. However, according to Daniel, the king would serve a short term and die, not in anger nor in battle. The next Syrian king of the north was Seleucus IV, who is also known as Philopator. He sent his tax collector named Heliodorus to Jerusalem to raise funds. When this tax collector attempted to steal the temple treasures, he was stopped when he saw a vision of being flogged by angels, resulting in him returning home empty-handed. It is believed that he murdered Philopator in a poisonous assassination in an attempt to gain reins over the kingdom. Yet again, the 10th major prophecy was once again fulfilled to the T, this time 347 years after it was prophesied. Such is the power of God's word. The finer details prophesied all occurred, but the Great War is far from over. See you in the next episode, where we uncover both fulfilled and unfulfilled prophecy awaiting fulfillment. Until next time, Maranatha.